Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm like reversed.
Yeah. No, we're good.
We good?
Okay.
So we actually like live?
We're live.
We're live.
This is behind, like
Whoa.
before Oprah goes on, she has the cameras rolling,
So like I shouldn't like stick my finger in my
No.
nose or anything like that.
Man.
Or just cover. It's hot up here, right? Was this like a stress test?
Get this, the air is all messed up. They keep running out of the fluid.
Oh.
The refrigerant.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I thought it was me, like the bright lights.
No.
I was like, going, God, am I getting grilled up here? I mean, it's like I'm starting to
It's the
sweat. I'm
Inquisition.
going, yeah, I'm like, shoot, I didn't know what
We're
I'd get
making
myself
sure you're on
into.
track.
So, yeah.
So I'm going to do like a short little thing straight to camera. And
Okay.
then we'll break, so don't make any noise. It's like 30 seconds, and then we'll have our conversation.
Sounds
Deal?
good. Sounds good to me.
Welcome to the Stay Healthy Experience. I'm Robert Ferguson, and you'll soon have my co-host, Miss Barbara Chris, with us, and our special guest. We're going to talk about type 2 diabetes. We're going to talk about weight loss. We're going to talk about how to live your healthiest life without avoiding carbs. This is one you don't want to miss. Let's get to it. What do you think?
Pretty good.
Pretty good, right?
Yeah, I'm impressed.
And one take.
One take. That's pressure right there.
I was gonna
Pressure.
say, I don't
hot.
know now that
Pressure.
I feel a little nervous now that I got to
But you don't got to do that part.
stammer,
Yeah.
stutter, and I mean, I don't know.
Exactly.
That part
Are you
is
checking
it.
the sound? Oh no. Are you getting tissue?
Well, just in case, I turn the air on.
Yeah.
I can hear it happening.
I know I can hear it too,
But
but
people like to see the behind the scenes part.
how it really goes down.
So we do a rough version like that. So right now we're actually live on Facebook.
Okay.
Hey Facebook,
Okay. So you guys ready?
we're ready.
Okay, it's that time. We are here, Barbara. Are
Yes.
you ready?
I'm ready.
So I've been talking about my friend, Mr. Chris, who's also a client for a while.
Mhm.
And I'm very thankful that you took the time or are making time to actually be here because you're a very, very busy man.
Yes.
Well, thank you. I mean, this has got to be a priority. So I hope I can help somebody with my story. So.
Oh, and I'm going to call this part one because I know what's going to take place in the next 3 to 4 months. I also know what's going to take place in the next year
With Chris.
with Chris.
Yeah, and I've heard so much about you. Good
So
things.
The pressure's on. Is that what you're saying?
You're like, we're
But when you
down.
put it out there like this, it's kind of like if you went on TV and you said, okay, I'm going to lose weight. And everybody's watching. Well, if you don't lose weight or if you don't get healthier,
Mhm.
then everybody's like, well, what happened? What happened?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the life of the people who were on The Biggest Loser, right?
Mm.
It's like, think about how their lives are because most of them gained all their weight back.
After the
And,
fact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're constantly in a struggle because they did so much damage to their metabolism.
Mhm.
And obviously that's not a good thing. But we're not here to talk about The Biggest Loser.
Right.
We're about to talk about something that I believe can help a lot of people. And my thing is giving people hope.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have hope, then your faith, in my opinion, kicks in. And if you have the right plan, it makes it nice. But I want to reverse engineer it because you said something when I first met you, when we began this journey. You said, man, I don't want to just lose the weight and then not be able to eat regular food. Has that been the case?
That's totally been the case. I mean, your Carbs Are Good song that you did, the cinnamon roll line was because of me. I've been eating, I've learned how to eat it in moderation and how to pair different things with, based on if I'm going to eat this, I bet I need to have this with it and all that. But I haven't not eaten anything that I normally enjoy. And that was the big deal. I mean, obviously health is the number one priority, but I expect to live a relatively long life and I want to enjoy life too. So
now, could you have imagined that, like today, where we are in part one of this series, that you're down 51 pounds as of yesterday?
No, I couldn't. I mean, I was actually a little shocked when I stepped on the scale yesterday and you started writing the numbers down. I was like, oh, wow.
And his body fat is down big time, like over 10% body fat.
That's amazing. So you're in running with My Biggest Loser at 56 pounds.
Okay.
So we got to step it up.
All right.
Yeah.
And triglycerides are over 1100, now in normal range.
Wow.
And your hemoglobin A1C. So for people who are diabetic, they will get this. It was 11.1. So let's go back to that story, kind of how we met, and then let's kind of walk through what has taken place.
I'm glad you said that.
So about 2 years ago was the first time I tried to go in yearly for a physical and everything else. And So 2 years ago, I knew something wasn't totally right. Went in, I was the heaviest I'd ever been. I mean, I was a 3-sport athlete in high school. I mean, as we know, I mean, Robert knows, people are listening don't know, but I mean, I was a high school and college coach for 30 years. I'm a high school athletic director. So, I mean, sports has been an integral part of my life.
Yeah.
And so, but, you know, for whatever reason, I let my health get out of control. So I was 288 pounds, went into the doctor, and my blood work hadn't come in yet. So we did my normal physical. The doctor's also a good personal friend. She called me that Friday night and said, hey, I need to have you come in after hours on Monday, and we need to talk about your blood work. Your blood work came back and you're type 2 diabetic. Mm. So she spun it as positive, I guess, as you can say. But so now I've got a whole weekend to think about, what does that mean? I have no clue. I mean, you hear about diabetes and you know about it, but what does that mean?
Right.
So we went in, talked about it. I made some changes, and you know, there's all those fad diets out there. I'll be honest. I mean, I did the low carb thing, and I lost, you know, a bunch of weight, and everything was kind of coming back together. Lo and behold, fast forward, when I went for my physical this last year, I was 10 pounds lighter than where I was at back then. When I got diagnosed with diabetes, they had lowered my metformin one time because I lost a bunch of weight. Went back, and that's when I was 11.1, my A1Cs. And my doctor walked in, and she's the most positive person you would ever want to meet. Wow. So when she came in for the first 5 minutes of my physical and said at least 5 times, these numbers in your blood work are very, very sobering, I was like, I didn't know what to do. I mean, it just like hit me like a ton of bricks. And so I came home, and I mean, I tried to wrap my head all around it. I had been diagnosed with sleep apnea just a month before, so I got this funky mask I got to wear at night and all this stuff. So I already had that I was dealing with. I'm there. They're talking about, you know, you could lose your eyesight if we don't get this under control. Like now, you could. I mean, we could start talking about amputations. I mean, you know, your triglycerides and stuff. You're like a walking, ticking time bomb. I'm like, you know, and then at the end, I'm kind of like, my belly button's looked kind of funny lately. Well, she goes, oh, you got an umbilical hernia too. So I've got all this going on, and I'm heading over to my high school to deal with something. And I finally just said, you know, my coach was there, and I said, you know, I can't talk about this right now. I left. Well, finally I got home, and you know, there's that country song, grown men, you know, when you become a dad, cry and stuff, I think you get more sensitive. I won't deny it. I mean, I finally teared up in front of my wife and said, I'm scared. I said, I have no clue what I'm doing. I mean, I can't wrap my head around this. I got all these different health issues, and I know nothing about it. It's like they gave me the glucose machine and stuff, the prescription to go start testing that. Well, I went to the pharmacy, picked it up, came home. Well, part of the prescription didn't go in. Well, so I've got the little lancets, and I've got the machine part, nothing else. So I'm going,
no strips.
No strips. No, like the little pin, the jab. So I'm going.
You're like, so.
Yeah. I'm like, what do I do with this? So I'm like, okay, I guess you take this off, and there's a little needle. So I guess, okay, you hold the thing and you prick your finger, I guess. But I'm like, where does this go? Like, where's do I just stick the machine? I'm like, what does these numbers mean? So finally, I called my doctor. And she goes, oh, yeah, for some reason, part of the prescription didn't go through. I sent it through. So now I got the test strips. I got the pins. So I'm like, okay, what now? So I do this, and I get these numbers. I have no clue what these numbers mean.
Well, I was going to say, then what? You get the numbers, and then what?
Yeah. I'm like, what does this mean? What am I supposed to eat? I mean, I started, you know, being an educator and stuff. I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to start researching this a little bit. Well, there's a million things out there on the internet. So I'm like, well, what can I eat? What can I not eat? So a good friend of Robert and I both, who's become like a little sister to me, Maureen Shea.
The real $1 million baby.
That's
Exactly.
Right, huh?
Exactly. I had helped her through a couple of times in her career, some long talks and everything else, of things she was going through, and she needed like a coach type guidance. And so we hadn't talked in a while, and so she randomly, you know, I believe in God near this. I think God works in mysterious ways. She just all of a sudden randomly called me. And I was like, you know what? Can I call you back? I said, I really, I need to talk to you about something. So we went home. We got the whole family together because she's like family, and we're like family to her. And so we put her on all the fancy stuff. My daughter's got it hooked up, so we're FaceTiming on our big screen TV. And so I said, okay. I said, I need you to pay back those times I talked to you. I said, this is what's going on. She goes, I could tell something was up. And I said, I got honest with you. I'm scared. I said, I don't know what to do. And I said, I'm pushing that magic number of 50. I'm getting closer. I said, I've always been a hypochondriac. So you start talking heart attacks and everything else and amputations and everything. I love my job as an athletic director. And I'm thinking if I have something amputated, so I can't do my job. And I mean, I worked my whole career to get this job. And so I said, I need help. I said, I don't know what to do. And so over the years of our relationship, she had hooked me up. I hadn't hooked me up with Robert, but it talked about Robert and, this diet program, but it's not a diet. And I mean, so I'm half kind of listening, like whatever, and so she goes, you know what? She goes, I think it's time. And I go, for what? My time's like up? I said, because I'm thinking that right now because I'm stressing. She goes, no. She goes, I think you're ready she goes, I want to introduce you to Robert. I said, okay. So I think Robert, everything happened within a couple of days. I think she called you.
Yeah, you had your numbers, and then she called me after that and says, hey, will you talk to my friend? And she asked if I was coaching. At the time, I wasn't taking on clients. And but I said, hey, let's get on the phone and see what we can do, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we got on the phone, we all talked, and I loved the energy. And then I said, let's meet, right? So you came over, and then I just thought the world of you and your wife, and we started. So that was 2 weeks after you did your numbers.
Yeah.
I remember.
So.
I actually remember you sharing that about you.
Oh.
I remember that.
Yeah, because I really don't. At the time, I wasn't coaching.
Yeah.
I mean, I would take on a client here or there, like if it's a Tony Braxton, okay, I'm gonna work with you.
There you go. You ranked.
Right?
You ranked.
Or Bobby Bowe or something like that. But I could tell that you had it in you to make the most of it. And so we started working together. And there we go.
Yeah, I love that you shared your journey as far as what made you make that call and reach out. So I think a lot of people can relate to that, and that fear of you go to the doctors and you get this information back from them. You don't know what the hell it means or what to do and how scary that is. And you're just telling it back to me. I'm feeling it. I can feel it, and a lot of people feel that too.
Yeah, when Robert asked if I would do this, I'm like, yeah. I mean, my kind of thing, he's helped me, through this, and I really believe in paying it forward. And if I can help somebody else, because I know how I felt. I mean, I didn't have any clue. I'm like, it's like I started doing that research. It's like, okay, one person would tell me, okay, you can eat this, and somebody else would tell me, no, you can't eat this. And I'm like, well, what? I don't know what to do. I'm like, I don't even know where to start.
Right. And in fact, you thought you were doing something right. You'd lost some weight, right? You were lighter going into this second round or this checkup this past year.
I was literally, I was 10 pounds lighter.
Yeah. So you're thinking, I'm doing good.
Yeah. And I knew something wasn't totally right, because like I could take a 32-ounce bottle of Gatorade and I would sit there, I would drink it, and I would drink it in 10 minutes or so, and I was still thirsty. Mm-hmm. And I could go fill that with water and then drink that, and I was still thirsty. And so I was like, I knew something wasn't totally right, but never, my numbers, my doctor was bragging about me a year and a half before to a couple other doctors as I was leaving the last appointment dealing with the diabetes. My Verson's down to, 5.6 A1Cs and all this stuff. I obviously didn't respect the disease. I will be honest, I did not respect the disease to all of a sudden go from where I was at to here. I'm like, I didn't understand. I'm like, I kept asking the question, like, how did this happen? And so she explained to me, you're always going to have to kind of deal with it. But she goes, there's ways that you can control this. She's a big believer in what Robert's been saying, that, we can reverse this, but you're always going to be potentially predisposed to it. You got to respect. I didn't respect it. And so she goes, it's a progressive disease, basically. And she goes, progressed. So you're now 2 years later. Yes, you're 10 pounds lighter than you were when we diagnosed you, but that's been around and with you and been hanging around for 2 years. You've now fast forwarded 2 years later, and it's come back full force. And
Wow.
Well, you know what? I want the people to get something in the backstory.
Yeah.
Because at this moment in time, we're still dealing with this lack of clarity around type 2 diabetes. And what I mean by that, in 2003, I don't know if you ever knew Dennis Cabral.
Mm-hmm.
So he was a client of mine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who is that?
He was a client years ago. He's
Okay.
a professor. He's retired now. But I do a talk, and I would talk about diabetic Dennis. So he came to me, this was around 2002, 2003.
Okay.
And I'll never forget, he had the desire and the commitment. He had just been diagnosed by Dr. Gonzalez with being type 2 diabetic.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, hey, is it possible to like reverse this? And I said, yeah. Now, you know, I've been saying that for a long time. And I literally had a doctor once send me an email and say, I can't believe that you are telling people they can reverse something that's irreversible. Like literally. And I've been called out a few times back in the day. Well, fast forward to 2017, the Lancet, which is one of the most respected medical journals in the world, they said you can reverse it. Mm-hmm. So think of all the headaches of going through that, saying it, and I'm coming across like a quack. And so the only ones I could get to embrace it were the ones that had hope that, yes, I'm going to reverse this, meaning there's no sign of it. And I went to the Mayo Clinic website today, and on their site today, they basically open up by saying you cannot reverse it. And then they say, but you can, like, it can basically disappear, but it's always there. Okay, so let's say it's always there. But what I believe is going to happen with you is that in part 2, there's going to be no sign of type 2 diabetes. And you're going to be eating foods that people would say you can't eat that and be a diabetic.
Right.
So I kind of want to go into the method of how you combine the foods and how, like, he really takes control of his blood sugar. Mm-hmm. Because the world right now, and people hear me on this, in America, there's like 30 million people who are type 2 diabetic. There's almost 100 million people who are pre-diabetic, meaning they were right where you were. Mm-hmm. They're walking around, their glucose is like 120. They don't know. 125. Next thing you know, full blown when they go into their next checkup. If everyone had a blood glucose monitor and they just checked it every once in a while, they would catch it before it became diabetes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But everyone's okay with the fact that, let's just say that 100 million people are pre-diabetic. Eventually they'll find out they're diabetic. That makes no sense. Right? It makes absolutely no sense. Let's catch it earlier.
Be proactive.
Yeah, I mean, be proactive. So, but let's give people the hope that you tapped into, mm-hmm. as far as the way you were eating in the beginning. Obviously, we got to start off somewhere.
Right.
But take them to the point, so as you're eating, that you got to this thing called a boost meal.
Yeah, take us there. Let's hear it.
So early on, I mean, what I will say is you put your money where your mouth is, you know, and it was, you met me where I was at. I mean, obviously, I mean, I was eating, I mean, I look at now how I was eating back then. I mean, I was just having a burger, but I was having the fries with it. And I'm like, you know, and so you start multiplying that and, you know, doing that 2-3 times a week and, you know, having, you know, not 2 slices of pizza, but I was eating a salad with that pizza. But I think back now, I was going, yeah, but I was having 6 slices of pizza and the salad. Like, you know, it's kind of like that person. I always chuckle sometimes when I'd go through the drive-thru and go, okay, I'm going to have the Big Mac, and a large fry and a Diet Coke. And I'm like, you know, that was my thought.
That makes
you know,
all the difference.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. You know, I'm eating 6 slices of pizza, but I got a salad over here, so I'm good, you know, and it's, so you met me, as you say, where I was at. I mean, it was no crash thing like, okay, we're taking all of this stuff away and you're never going to have it again. It was like, okay, what do you like to eat? And I mean, I literally had to sit down, I mean, and think about, well, what do I really like to eat? And then the great thing about it is, you know, the diet-free life is, it's truly that. I mean, you started teaching me how to pair different things together. And I mean, the first thing was, it was like, what really stuck for me is I won't lie, I have a sweet tooth. I mean, if you look on my Facebook right now,
Oh,
I don't
check it
post
out.
anything. Well, you won't see any pictures. I don't post it. But if you look
Only
at my
new friends.
saves, I have this I mean, I have all these desserts saved, and I'm like, now it's like just to kind of look at them. But I'm like, you know what? I know how I could eat that, but I need to have a sliver of it, and I need to make it as a snack, a fat burning type snack, and I'm going to do. So what? Now I'll never forget one of the first times Robert and I met. He said, you know what? So here's how you sit down. You do your meals, and you explain the 3 different types of meals, and you always start with your protein, and you can have a protein and a fast carb, and that could be good. Or you could have your protein and your fast carb and your bonus slow carb. And I'm like, okay. So I'm still listening and everything else. And he goes, now, once you get your meals all set up, and if you want to you could do up to your protein and your 3 slow carbs. And so he goes through all the different meals. He goes, now, then you get your snacks. You need to make sure you snack every 2 to 3 hours. And, those anywhere to start with, he goes, for a man, 200 to 300 calories. Well, so now I'm starting to think, okay, that bag of chips over there, so 180. I can't eat a bag of chips. I mean, this is like I'm supposed to be, watching what I eat.
Right. You're like, there's no way in hell that could be right.
Yeah. I mean, it's like the brainwash. Like, okay, I'm supposed. So what he said was, in that, when he was explaining it, he goes, if you feel like you want a Snickers, eat a Snickers for your snack, as long as it's below 300 calories. And I'm like, perfect. So my sweet tooth mind, that set in. So, I mean, literally, especially early on, I had, it was around Christmas time, that I really got kind of started, and we had met up, and I was on the plan and everything else.
Oh, so you went through the holidays.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. It was, so we did the holidays, and so it was, I love those little Reese's peanut butter chocolate Christmas tree things,
Those are pretty amazing.
So at the grocery store, I was like, well, let's just look for kicks. How many calories? 250. I'm like, boom, throw it in the cart. But still, when I was eating it, I felt, there's something wrong with this. I should not be eating this as my snack, as a type 2 diabetic, as, overweight, trying to get my weight under control and everything. I'm eating a Reese's peanut butter cup Christmas tree for a snack. I'm like, I should be eating probably like some strawberries or something like that,
kale.
or some kale, or some, I can't even say quinoa or whatever. I got to be eating something that like healthy. I mean, celery sticks. I mean, there's got to be. So, that was the big struggle. Today, I know, like, I mean, if I want to have that boost, I know what to pair with it. I'm like, last night, I'm driving home from a late night, watching our girls soccer team play up in Santa Barbara, and I'm coming home. I knew, I could have stopped it in and out, but the line was too long, so I went home and fixed my meal. But I knew I could stop it in and out if I needed to, and I could have the fries, I could have the double, but I just get it with lettuce wrap.
How empowering is that?
It's so empowering.
It's if people just can realize that learning just that's I think very simple structure, that how empowering that is with respect to your food and having freedom with food.
Well, I wanted to share with people who are listening, and I don't know if I shared this with you before. Maybe I have, but one of my sister, who's no longer with us, we had different dads. And so her dad was married to a woman named Carolyn, very nice lady. And I would go back to visit Indiana. I would see her all the time, and she was type 2 diabetic. And she knew what I did. And I remember going back, and we were at this, what's the pizza place right over here that's not open anymore? Anyway, we're at a big pizza place where the kids go and they have those things that dance inside.
Chuck E. Cheese.
Chuck E. Cheese.
Yeah.
So we're at a Chuck E. Cheese. And I'll never forget, because I was sitting across from her. And she was like, yeah, I'm diabetic. And I saw your infomercial. I was like, oh, cool. So she knew what I did. And she goes, yeah, but I can't be eating all that. So she wasn't even really thinking about hearing what I had to say. And I'm not there with family. It's a whole different dynamic. So I just didn't say anything.
You didn't take your whiteboard out?
No. I was like, I'm not here to convince anybody.
Right.
Fast forward about 4 years later, my mom calls me because I was on my way back. She says, hey, you may want to go see Carolyn. She's in the hospital. Ooh. And her diabetes has progressed, and they're going to amputate. She's going to have her leg taken off above the knee. Oh. And Carolyn decided, I am not going to live with one leg. So she died. She rather died. But at the end of the day, what it really came down to, she didn't want to live life without being able to eat the food that she liked.
Wow.
And everything I had been doing was showing people how to eat the food that they like. So she never even gave it a chance, and she's no longer here. You know what I mean? And that's how sad it can be, because people really don't want to give up. But if you look at all the things, and you said it when I first met you, you have the doctors, you have the nurses, you have the endocrinologists. They're all saying, well, you know what? We got to stop eating all that. So saying that, when you go in and you talk to your endocrinologist and you said, hey, yeah, by the way, this program is working for me, and I actually went in and had In-N-Out, and I had a burger with the bread and the fries.
What'd they say? They freak out?
Well, so it was, I had blood work to support me. I mean, so it was, as Robert says, it's objective. I mean,
Exactly.
It's right here. This is what it is. You can't deny it. This is the blood that came out of your body. This is what it says. So she had those numbers in front of her, and it was, my A1Cs were down to 6.0. My triglycerides were at 130. And the first thing she said was,
what are you doing?
How did you do this, and what are you doing? Like, almost, because I won't lie, like when the blood work first came back, when I was out, my A1Cs are 11.1, all that stuff, I was like total denial. Like I said, well, I think the lab mixed up my results. I mean, I really said that at first. Like,
no way.
I don't think this is my blood work. And so then fast forward to a few months later, when I'm sitting there with my doctor, and the specialist is going over all this stuff, and they specialize in dealing with type 2 diabetes. And she's asked me, what did you do type thing. I'm thinking, God, I wonder if the lab mixed up the blood work again. I'm like, I almost was kind of at first in doubt. I'm like, well, this is what I did. And I told her, and she goes, you got to give me this person's email and name and stuff. Because she goes, I need to share this with my patients. And I just, I was like, yeah. And kind of what you were saying with that story, I can relate. Like, I mean, and I think, when we talked early on, I said, I want to live a long life, but I want to enjoy life. Like, I don't want all I can eat is salad, or, and I love salad. Don't get me wrong. I mean, there's nothing wrong with salad, but I like, my grandparents, my mom's mom and dad, they were from the Midwest. I mean, they were Missouri, Kansas, all that stuff. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it was pinto beans and cornbread and all that stuff. I said, I want to eat that. I said, because I don't want to not live. I mean, so if that's what I had to do, is to change my diet completely to live as long as I can. I mean, I want to be there for my family, but still, it's like, I wouldn't be enjoying life. And so I can totally relate. I mean, I don't know that I was quite to the point like I'd trade my life for, not being able to eat certain things, but that was in the back of my mind. It's like, do I really want to go through life not being able to, if I wanted to have a cinnamon roll, as part of my meal, not being able to eat that, if I wanted to have a couple slices of pizza because I'm out with a group of coaches and everything, not being able to do that, I don't know that life wouldn't be as enjoyable. Maybe I go a handful more years, and then it's like, whatever happens, happens, because it's like, you only get to live once, as they say. And so she was, but back to the doctor, I mean, she was blown away. She's asked me, what have you been doing? Like,
how many months had passed?
What, maybe 3? Yeah, maybe 10. Yeah, it was about 10. It wasn't even a full 3 months, because I'm going back for blood work here in about a month and a half.
That's part 2, people. Part 2.
Let's
see what happens with Chris.
But she was blown away. And I mean, and then the next day I had a meeting with my regular doctor, my primary care physician, and she was asking the same thing, and asked me again, what have you been doing? And I said, well, I've been eating In-N-Out, and I've been, I had pizza here and there. I've had tri-tip sandwiches, and I mean, I think, and they started laughing like that, kind of like, and my doctor is a very close friend, and so we have probably a different patient-doctor relationship. And she kind of laughed and like, no, seriously, what have you been doing? And I'm like, I'm telling you what I've been doing. I mean, that's what I've been doing. And she goes, well, there's no way. And I said, no, there is. I said, and this is how. I said, I've learned how to eat, and eat the way that I can meet the goals I have, but enjoy eating.
Right. Sustainable for you.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the biggest things that when I, teach my clients is that, or even just when I share information, is how in order to have sustainable results, you have to have a sustainable program in place. And I think that, and I don't know, this is a good question for you, is that I feel like a lot of times when we're trying to share information about health and getting healthier, it's not the education part that sells. Like what you're sharing right now is a great information, but for someone who's just starting out and not knowing what to do, they want to hear more about what's the pill I can take. Maybe not everybody, but a lot of people want that kind of that easier, more tangible thing or tool that they can just grab, like wrap their hands around, as opposed to you may have to learn how to eat. For you, what was it that, I don't know, that compelled you to take that step and actually learn something?
I think it's probably having good mentors in my life. I mean, I remember I started coaching at 18 years old, right out of high school. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I look back now at a person that's a mentor of mine and that allowed me to do that. And I go, oh my gosh, now being an athletic administrator myself, I'm like, he was crazy. What the heck was he thinking, putting this 18-year-old out there coaching? And I always remember that what my mentor shared is the day you think you can't continue to learn about your craft, your trade, that's the day you better get out, because people are going to start kicking your butt, because you're not going to continue to progress as a coach. It's kind of that as an educator. I've been teaching for almost 30 years. Well, there's a lot of different teaching methodologies now that didn't exist back 30 years ago when I started teaching. Well, if you stay in the Stone Age, you're going to not do the service for your students as you need to do. So I think it was that training of, that you always need to learn. And so it was like, this needed, I've played this game, and I obviously, I mean, looking back, I played the game, and I played the game with diabetes. It was like, okay, let's go, come on. And early on, let's, and I'm going to knock you down, and okay, it's good now. Everything's good. I'm done. Well, that obviously didn't work real well, and diabetes came back, and and it knocked me down, not once but twice, because my numbers doubled. And so that's what the motivation was, is I got to get this under control. Because like I said, I'm not afraid. I'm man enough to admit I was scared. I was scared because I didn't know what to do. I mean, if Maureen doesn't bring him into my life, I don't know where I'd be right now. I mean, so I'm grateful for what he's done. And that's why I told him, I said, I'm willing to do this, because people need to hear about this, because you need to have hope. I mean, and I was about, I didn't realize, and I've heard him talk now about my story and share with people. I kind of knew how serious it was. And like I said, I was scared, but I didn't totally know. Like, I didn't understand 11.1. What the hell is 11.1 A1Cs? I didn't know. And I was diabetic. I mean, I should know what A1Cs were. I didn't know. And so that was, I think, my motivation for wanting to learn. It's okay, how can I do this to make myself, make it through this, live a long life. And as I keep saying, I'm a coach, and I can't turn off that competitiveness. I mean, I go golfing. I don't golf very often, but I'm so competitive. It's not relaxing, because I'm getting pissed when I miss a 3-foot putt, but I'm like, but then the reality sets in myself. I step back and go, you never practice putting. Why would you think you're not gonna be Tiger Woods? I mean, he practices hours and hours a day, but it's that competitiveness. So for me now, it's like, okay, you won round 2, type 2 diabetes, but round 3 is on me now.
Right. So you're working to get that control back.
Yeah, but I know I needed to learn. I mean, I obviously, the way I was doing it wasn't working very well. So
the best coaches are also the best students. You know what I mean?
I agree.
So there's a humility there. But at one point you said something, and I love the way you communicated. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have you come on this show. I like your analogies, and it's clear. At one point we were talking about when you did your first Boost meal. If you remember, he went to In-N-Out Burger. He got the burger with the bread and the fries. But you explained, and I want you to explain it, how there's a psychology to all of this. And I believe it will help people to hear how you were explaining that to me. And I wish I could have recorded it at that moment, not to put pressure on you, but because it's so true. I've heard it and people go through it. Can you just touch on that? It's like what it felt like to be eating something.
Yeah. So seriously, as I'm eating this, I'm going.
So what'd you get exactly?
So I got a double, no tomato, no spread, grilled onions, add ketchup, and fries. Water. Eventually I might go back and try and drinking a diet soda again, but I haven't through this whole thing. I have not had one sip of soda. And I used to drink 2-3 Diet Cokes a day.
Oh, okay.
Not one single, and I haven't really wanted it. But so water was my drink of choice. And I came home, I'm sitting there and the whole family, we're eating at the table, and I'm eating this, and I'm like, shouldn't be doing this. And I'm not saying it out loud, but I'm thinking to myself, okay, there's something wrong with this. Like I should not be doing this right now. But I'm like, okay. It's like, as he says a lot of times, trust the process. And I'm like, so I'm thinking to myself going, that son of a gun, Robert. All right. I think I'm getting set up here, but all right, I'm going to eat this.
Right.
I'm going to do it. And so I ate it, but I'm doing that wrestle with myself, like tugging back and forth, like in my head, like something's wrong about this. And as I told him, it's because we get brainwashed, it's taught, that carbs are bad. Like, don't eat that. You see all these models on TV and these actors and actresses and they drop all this weight and they're super skinny and stuff. And it's like, how did I do this? Well, I just don't eat carbs. Keep it away from me, keep it away from me. I don't eat carbs. And so I will say this, that, those people in society that's how they make their money. They've done a good job brainwashing people like me, because I'm having like this mental struggle right now this whole time, to the point I'm not enjoying this boost meal because I'm having a mental struggle in my head. Like, something's crazy. So fast forward 2.5 hours later, I'm like, or let's see. So I go get the glucose machine and I do the thing and I go, oh, it's going to be like 200 or something. This is going to be like the worst reading I've ever had since I started this.
Right.
It was, if I remember correctly, I want to say it was 98 or 100.
It was low.
Oh my gosh.
And I sent him the picture and I'm like,
how the hell?
Yeah. So then me like going, still having my mental struggle. I'm like, this ain't real. This has got it. There must be an error with this thing. So I did it again. And I'm like,
switched your blood again.
Yeah. I'm like, so I don't know how they got in there, but somebody's switching my blood again. And so I did it again. And it came back 98 again. And I was like, wow, okay. And so shortly thereafter is when I came and met with him and I'd gotten the first blood work back, I think a few days later, and we were talking about it. And I said, it's just society. They've done a great job brainwashing us, because I, through that whole thing, did not enjoy that meal at all, because I knew this is like, these numbers are going to skyrocket.
Right. And at that point, you probably already had lost some weight too, right? So you're already experiencing success.
Uh-huh.
And you're still like having that mental struggle.
Yeah. And, and one of the things I will say is, as I said earlier, you can't turn that competitive side off. Mm-hmm. So there's a competition. But I've said this time, I'm not going to obsess with this. I'm going to, I'm getting up and I'm working out every day and stuff. But, there's been here and there I've missed a day. And it's like, I'm not going to kick myself for that. If I was a little extra hungry, and I snuck, and shouldn't have been, I maybe stepped over, it was my boost meal, and I maybe stepped over that carb threshold just a little bit. It's okay, because this time my goal is, this is a life commitment this time. And that was what was so important, is I got to learn how to eat, because I got to do this for life. That crash thing doesn't work. When a bunch of coaches want to go and grab pizza, mm-hmm. and you're sitting at the pizza place going, well, I guess I'll do the salad, and it's like everybody else is eating pizza and you're eating the salad. And it's like, so it had to be that commitment. But it was hard for me. I couldn't grasp that. And and I've said through this, the big thing is trust. And, I call it, I always remember Mo Marine saying, referring to her team of people. I've started that same theme. Like, I got a team. There's there's the coach. I'm the athlete. I'm the player now. There's my coach. And over here's my support staff that have their pieces of this. Mm-hmm. And what's been good is, and one of the things that I'll be honest that Robert and I talked about before I went back for the first time to my specialist was, I don't know, Robert. I don't think they're going to change my dosage. I don't know. I think this is going to be a struggle. And I don't know, how do I tell the doctor that I think you're wrong here. But she was great. I mean, it was right away. So we go through all this, and I mean, he goes, call me after you get done. Call me. And I'm like, okay, I'll let you know. So right away she goes, what do you think about we lower your dosage of metformin?
Hell yeah.
And I'm like, that's been the goal. I said, hell yes, let's go lower that thing, because, you know, I don't like it. You know, I mean, I don't like the way it makes me feel. I mean, right. You know, it just, it's not, you're not supposed to be taking metformin. I mean, God didn't intend you to be taking metformin. He didn't create metformin. So I'm like, you know, let's go for it. My doctor, same thing. She goes, so did they lower your metformin? I said, yeah. And I said, my goal is in 3 months when I go back, now I've got 3 months of doing everything. So my A1C should be as precise as they can be. Mm-hmm. I want them to take me completely off. I want the doctor to tell me you are off of it. Nice. And, you know, so
that'll be in part 2.
Yeah.
So I'm predicting that. I'm putting on my Nostradamus hat.
Yes.
It's inevitable. I really believe that.
It's going to happen. But
and you're doing the work.
But it's a huge paradigm shift for you as far as just your way of thinking and what was happening. Your blood work was showing all these great things, but yet it was still a struggle. And it's so interesting because I coach, you know, a lot of people that face that same struggle. Like, we could be looking at their numbers. They get here, put them on the scale, we check their body composition. They're telling me, they're listing all these things of all these improvements, how their energy is better, their clothes are fitting better, or they're too loose now, they're sleeping better. And yet they're still trying to figure out, well, but I'm just really not sure I should be eating, you know, these, what we call fast carbs. Mm-hmm. Or they still just cannot wrap their head around that. They still feel like there's something just not quite right, you know?
Because like I said, I credit to the marketing people. They've done a great job, you know, and they've got everybody bought in. And like I said, that's why I was thrilled to come on and do this. Because, you know, like he says, trust the process, and more people need to know about this, you know. And I know, I mean, all you got to do is Google his name, and I did. I mean, you know, even after we talked on the phone, I'm like, what the hell is this Robert Ferguson guy? You know, I mean, Marine's half crazy, so I mean, it's like anybody that stands there, let somebody hit him in the face. I mean, so I always call her Punchy. I'm like, she's half crazy. So now she's got me probably introduced to her crazy friend, and I'm like, great. So who is this guy? Right. So I'm Googling it. And he's, you know, and it's like, I'm watching all these videos and he's on TV talking to this celebrity and that celebrity. And I'm like, Right. But then he's like kind of on a different phase of life. And I was like, well, I'm going to give it a shot. And people need to know about what he's done.
You know, there's a guy, he's a doctor, Dr. Michael Fong. I hear his name every week. And he's out of Canada. And he's really got a lot of momentum. And everything that you're saying your experience has been, he would say that's not possible. And he's I mean, this guy is invited everywhere to speak. And his hypothesis is that you do intermittent fasting if you want to reverse diabetes. And you lean more on the keto side. He will tell you that you cannot eat bread if you want to like get the outcomes that you've gotten. So if I was Dr. Fong and I'm giving my talk, would you say, hey, excuse me, there's something wrong with what you're saying? Like, you know what I mean?
No doubt. I mean, I would be like, well, so, you know, I always, there's certain things that, I mean, you could cuss me out and it's like, I could walk away from that, no problem. You start challenging my character and stuff, now we got a problem. And so I would say to him, so you're calling me a liar? I mean, because I can show you my journal, I can show you pictures, I could bring in 20 different people that have ate with me over the last 4 months or so that I've been working with Robert that have seen what I've eaten. I'm not making this up, and this is who I am. I can show you pictures of where I was at. I can show you all my blood work. So then you explain to me. I mean, am I just this modern day miracle?
He would probably say they misdiagnosed you. Right?
They switched your blood work.
Yeah,
they switched my blood. So then maybe I should. I'm like, that was my theory. They switched my blood work.
But I think that maybe a lot of people, though, that they're so used to thinking that to have results like you, that they have to do something that's extremely restrictive and deprives them. That even if, let's say, something's working, when they hear something like that, they might think, yeah, I guess I should be doing that. Because we're, like you said, we're so conditioned to think that it takes that ultra restrictive route. That's the only way.
Yeah, but I would have no problem saying you're full of it. You're
Right.
wrong, man. This is it, because you're right. I mean, and they have done a great job brainwashing people that you can't. We mean enjoy life. You can eat what you want. Yeah, I mean, I can. And I've learned how to do that. And it's simple. Like I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer. So like keto and stuff. I mean, Atkins was a little easier. Keto, I can't figure it out. I mean, all these numbers and doing anything. Where this is, I need something simple. Like I needed, like I'm rushing over here from dealing with 7 different fires that are going with all these different athletic events going on right now. When I leave here, I got to know that, okay, where can I eat? On my way back to school, and quickly. Well, I know that there's 2 or 3 places over here. I'm not going to pitch anybody. I mean, nobody's giving me any money to pitch them, so I'm not pitching
yet,
them.
right?
Yeah, we'll see. But there's a couple places right around the corner that that somebody in this room posted a picture of the other day.
No, that was him. He introduced me to the Impossible Burger at Starbucks.
Oh,
but I was talking about that other place that starts with a W, the old Waba Grill. I mean, I was like,
Waba Grill, that's good.
Yeah. So I'm like, that's probably where I'm heading. So,
Yes.
so anybody want to see Waba Grill? Just get on this.
Now, what's the name of that bread in that Starbucks thing? It's not.
I think it's a ciabatta.
I was at ciabatta.
Oh man, they did good on that one.
So that's the other thing that's crazy. Like I told him yesterday, so he goes and eats that, but I told him, I said, I never would have thought in a million years that 4 months ago that I would be eating an Impossible patty of something. I'm like, I was like, and I wasn't sure, but it was like the only thing that was how I came about it one day is I hadn't eaten. It was time to eat, and I was out leaving a meeting. I'm like, okay, I haven't had my cup of coffee. I need something. What is this? And so I ordered it, and I thought it was just an Impossible breakfast sandwich. Like, I didn't know what Impossible meant. I thought it was just a breakfast sandwich. So I'm like,
Impossible.
yeah. So I go and I eat this. I'm like, that was pretty good. I go home. I'm like, wait, Impossible. They got the Impossible Whopper and all that stuff. I'm like, wait a second.
Like, oh damn.
This is meatless. And I'm looking on their website. I'm going, oh shoot, I just ate a dang meatless. I'm like, what the heck?
To me?
And I'm like, oh my God, the guy, and I'm like, and it was pretty dang good. And so that was the thing, is learning all that stuff and learning to be able to, and it's simple. Like I don't have to start counting how many ketones or macros or whatever the heck, and all that. I don't have to do any of that. I just go in and go to the water. Okay, let's see. This is here's my fat burning meal. Okay, I'll take one of those, please.
And that is what makes it work. That is real life. And I think that's where a lot of people miss that point, is that they feel like, they start a diet, they can concentrate on that for, let's say, 3 weeks, but then real life kicks in. And then they just feel like, since they can't be 100% doing whatever it is, that they fall completely back off. And what you've learned is a lifestyle, because that is real for you. It's real for you that you're going to be in a meeting, that you might be hungry, and on your way back home or wherever it is that you're going, you're going to pit stop at a Starbucks. And what can you do to make it work? That's what I think a lot of people need to realize that they can do. And what we say, meeting you where you are and how powerful that is, that's what it's about. Because those are the things, like when I talk to people, when they say, hey, I've fallen off, I put weight back on, it's because I'm stuck in meetings all day, and I don't bring my lunch with me, and I have to eat it wherever. But you tell them.
He passed the big test. So
What's
I have
that?
Actually, I've shared this with you. We talked about it.
Mm-hmm.
I'll have a client come in, and you'll remember this moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I draw a bowl. Like, I'm not the best artist, but I can draw a few things I learned in 1st or 2nd grade. So I draw a bowl, and I say, okay, this is a salad. Now build a fat burning meal as a salad. And you built it you killed it.
Yeah, I remember that.
If you weren't an athletic director, I would love you to become a coach.
Actually, he rattled off meal building early on this talk.
Yeah.
He did really well. I was impressed. So as a coach myself, I was like, hey.
Like Bloom's autonomy, you're at the highest level. There's a creative component to where you get to where you can create a fat burning meal with anything.
Mm-hmm.
And you killed it. I was like, you graduated, man. So I need to get you a certificate.
Your coach is pretty good. You have a good coach.
I'm telling you, you are killing it. Now,
and I think the key is too, obviously, we're different builds a little bit still. I haven't got to that build yet, but it's just, what was always hard when I had different doctors and stuff was, they're lecturing me about my weight, and I'm looking and I want to go, really? You're lecturing me about my weight, or vice versa, how, if he would have started, well, you need to eat this and you need to eat this and you need to eat this. I'm like, yeah, it's easy for you to say over there, Mr. 100 and whatever pounds and, all that. Yeah, easy for you. But I'm 288 and I'm going to eat that. And I'm going to want to eat the arm of the couch in 5 minutes because I'm still starving. So yeah, easy for you. But look at the size motor that you're feeding and look at the size motor I'm feeding. There's no way. And he never did any of that. It was like, like he said, you guys have been saying the key is we're going to meet you where you're at and then build off of that from here, and yeah, my portions are different now than they were when we started. And, I'm eating impossible patties that I never thought, and enjoy it. But so I've, diversified a little bit, but I never felt judged. Like I never felt like, that easy for you to say, Mr. Nutrition guy. Never felt that way. It was like, want to eat a cinnamon roll? Okay, well, here's how you eat it.
And he ate cinnamon rolls during the holidays.
I did. Yes. Every day until they were gone. So every day.
Now, I have a question for you. And we're going to get to this place where Barbara and I are going to throw questions at you.
Okay.
But I want to ask you a question. And then if you would ask him a question, it'd be great. And then we're going to move into that rapid fire.
Okay.
And the question I want to ask you, and you didn't really experience this, like when someone is on a mission to lose weight and they check their weight and it doesn't go down, or maybe the next week they gain a pound. I want to hear from you. How would you motivate yourself when you're expecting to see weight loss and you don't get it, to keep yourself moving forward?
Back a few years ago, I would have beat myself up. Now it's like, this is a process. Trust the process. And what I've learned is the scale can be evil. It could be like right now, I guarantee you, if I went downstairs and got on Robert's scale, I've eaten no different. I did, over an hour workout today and all that stuff. I'm looking at my Apple Watch. I'm right where I need to be at this time of the day for calorie burn. I might be up a little bit. Well, now I've been educated that it's partly because maybe I haven't had as much water today, but it's hot outside. So my body's trying to store up water and stuff. Mm-hmm. So it could be just retaining water. And to not get on that scale all the time is the advice. Because I used to be that obsessive person. Like when I would diet.
I'm loving this because I didn't know that. So this is great.
Yeah,
I didn't know you had that challenge. And so many people, I'm sure your clients, they all battle with this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's that obsessive, probably compulsive side of me that it's like, okay, I got to get on that scale. And now through this whole process, not weighing the first couple of weeks was killing me because I was in doubt. I'm like, there's no way this is going to work. And but I can remember though, the times we'd go out to eat with Mo and she would be pairing all these things. And I didn't know what the heck she was doing, but she'd be like, I want this and I want this. I don't know. But I'm like, this isn't gonna. There's no way this is working. This guy's telling me I can eat this, and so. But I trusted the process, and I didn't get on the scale. I would truly say, don't get on the scale. But if I hit that, and I had a couple of weeks through this process that it was like maybe only a pound, or it was, I didn't lose anything this week according to what the scale said. But I'm like, my belt just went one notch tighter. I'm like, something's not jiving. It's a life commitment. It's a life style, and it's learning how to make those choices where you can enjoy life, you can enjoy eating. So go back to trust the process, and don't get so obsessed with it.
All right.
Good. So I have a question about eating your favorite foods. So one of the fears that actually some of my clients have, especially early on, and then even some of my potential clients that I talk to, one of the things that they always share is that what keeps them from really jumping in 100% into really anything and learning how to, let's say, eat for for a healthier lifestyle, I should say, is that they have this fear that they're not going to be able to eat the foods that they love. And when they feel like that when they do finally eat or get to eat it, they just go crazy. They go overboard. They have no control. How has, if at all, how has that changed for you as far as dealing with, let's say, some of those indulgent foods and how you're feeling when you eat them or being able to eat them? And
did you lose your mind when you went to In-N-Out?
I did. I mean, I told you guys, I mentally wrestled. I was like, well, this was the biggest waste of a 45-minute part of my life, sitting in that big old long line out the driveway and everything else to get this burger and do all this. And I'm going to go home and I'm going to have these fries and I'm going to have this. Because I just sat there and tormented myself through the whole stinking meal. Now, nobody at the table knew I was doing it, but it was up here. And as we all know, your mind's a powerful tool. And it was working full drive at that point. And so it's just, it's trusting the process, and just, you got to trust somebody,
Right.
And if I can't trust my coach, who do I trust?
Well, do you think that knowing what you know now, that let's say you wanted a cinnamon roll, do you feel like you can have one and you don't have as much guilt as maybe you would, let's say, prior to knowing how?
Oh yeah. And I think the kind of answer your question, I think as you go through this and you see the results and you're getting the results that you wanted, you feel more and more comfortable. Like I don't anymore. Like I mean, we went to the Hamburger Habit the other night, and I had lettuce wrap burger and I felt like having fries. I didn't have a moment of guilt when I was eating those, because I was like, I know now I've tested the process multiple times. I got the bruised fingertips to show how many times I've pricked my finger. And those numbers have never changed. Like, they're not going way the heck up. They're staying, where they need to be. And so now, you do, I think you learn to, as you are going through this, you do get to cope with it better. I didn't feel any guilt at all that night eating the lettuce wrap burger with my French fries, and a little bit of ketchup on the side to dip them in.
Nice.
Very nice, yeah.
All right, so it's time for a little rapid fire. So what we're gonna ask you questions, and the goal is for you to answer it as fast as you possibly can.
Okay.
Okay. So with where you are and where you want to be, is there anything that will stop you from getting to that goal?
Potentially my job, and now that we've got every single high school sport that is in existence all going at the same time, crammed into a 3-month window, it has been a challenge. It's been a challenge, but learning to, what I can have and when I can have it, and keeping track and setting a timer to kind of keep eating and having pre-prep stuff on hand has helped. But that will be the thing. And I've kind of made a commitment that I'm not going to let that stop me. My hour in the morning, I might be answering an email as I'm power walking in between my run and my walk. But, and there's been a few times I've almost ran into a pole because I've been trying to email and run at the same time. But I'm like, it's not going to, this is going to be at one point, I'm going to be a little selfish this time. But that would be the thing, probably, is life and mainly my job. And I'm not going to let this job, that's just a job, ruin what I'm doing.
Nice.
All right.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm a firm believer in that a lot of times we're not aware of the people we inspire. So I'm sure Robert inspires you, but you're probably not aware of how many people you inspire. How do you believe, or how do you see that what you've done with your life has impacted those closest to you?
I've had at least, and it's hard. I mean, I hope people that are close in my life can say I'm a humble person, because that's what I try to be. So it's been really, this has been the toughest part. This has been, is people, I can't hide it. I mean, I was 276 pounds, 4 months ago or something. I'm 225 pounds today. I mean, so it's, I can't hide, but it's like people and it does make me feel good to hear him say it, but it's like, people continuously, what have you been doing? What have you been doing? How did you do this? What have you been doing? And, I had a person that I saw for the first time that night in a while, had a major stroke, was in the hospital for 2 months. And I mean, is now going through all the rehab. My principal, who's good friends with him, had talked to him about me. And he had them drive him around the stadium at Ventura High School to our sideline the other night to come and talk to me. And he goes, I heard about what you're doing. I want to talk to you in the near future. So, I mean, and here's a guy that's a dad like me, and he's got a family and a wife and all that stuff coming over and saying that. It's like, wow. I mean, that kind of, that hit home, and, people, telling, complimenting, and, the minute I've had, like I said, 20, 30, 40 different people, and, and it's hard because you don't want to cram a process on somebody because, but, when I said, well, if you truly want to know, let's talk. I said, but so I guess that's how I know that I've had an impact with some people, and that was never what I intended to do. But just knowing where I was at and how frustrated I was at, and I mean, it was probably the breaking down with the tears and stuff was probably partly the fear, but partly just all the frustration finally boiled over. I was like, I just don't know what to do. I mean, I don't, and so, obviously people talking to me has made me kind of realize that I guess I have that a little bit of impact. So if I can help somebody else not go through that, I'm game for that.
All right, so let's do a little background here because, like, I'm a fan of vampires, right? And so I watch these vampires. The series called The Originals, and then there was one before that where it's like more like teeny boppers. But I love it. And there's a part with the vampires where they turn off their humanity. Like they have this ability to hit a switch, and when they turn that switch, it's like an athlete, right? Then they're sad. Right? Like when I would work with Vargas, like locally, this guy was very reckless with his nutrition, his eating, drinking, and partying. But when it was time to go to camp, it was a whole different animal. Like you couldn't put his favorite food in front of him. He was not going to eat it because the mindset was there. It was set. And 100% you have that. So have you always had that? And if you have, what about the people who don't have it? Do you have any words of wisdom, because you are a coach, that could help them tap into that mindset?
I think it's that natural competitiveness, and it can be dangerous. I mean, it was, what we were saying earlier. I mean, that competitive thing can cause problems too. I mean, it was, okay, I'm going to take on this weight thing, but I'm going to step on the scale every day. And I was like, wait, what the hell? I only ate like this, and this yesterday, and that scale just told me I'm 3 pounds heavier today. I was like, how did that happen? And then you're starting to obsess about it. So it can be a negative at times, but it's just, I think, setting goals, and it's got to be, when I talk to my former players, since I'm not a coach anymore, but as I talk to coaches and as I advise our student athletes when they come in and talk to me about stuff, is I don't care, you got to set goals, but they got to be things that you personally want. I don't care what mom and dad says in this situation. If you don't want to go to that college, don't go to that college, because you're not going to be successful. It's what do you want to do? Not what mom and dad wants to do, because guess what? You're going to be the one that's going to have to live that life, not mom and dad. So with this, it's like, what do you want out of this process? And what my goal was might not be your goal, might not be his goal, but it works because it's me. And it's like, this is my goal. And so that's the biggest thing, I think, to help me keep the focus, is that it's, and then the second thing is you got to have a support network. I mean, everything in my life has been athletics and stuff. So I relate to everything in life, athletic related. I mean, and it's my team and my classes. My period 1 class is different than my period 2 class. This is my team and this is my team. And I got to coach them different based on, what the makeup of the team is. And so, it's kind of that thing is, as I tell them, ultimately, if you're going to be successful as a team, you got to have a team, you got to have a support network behind you. So identify that support network. And, my wife has been that support network for me, without her, I couldn't do it. And I mean,
Mm-hmm.
does she follow it quite the same? Maybe not totally. And has there been some frustrations for her off and on? Yeah. But never once. It's like, if we're going to go out to eat, where do you want to go? What can
Mm-hmm.
you have here or there? Or, you know, when we make a meal at home, it's always a fat burning meal. And so she, you know, so my thing to keep that focus, to answer that, go back to your question, is it's got to be your goal. It's got to be whatever's important to you, not anybody else. And you got to have a support network, because there's been some stumbles in this whole thing.
Yeah.
But I got people behind me that are picking me up.
Nice.
Yeah, definitely takes a village for sure. So I got one more.
Oh, no, go for
Yeah,
it.
one more.
I was
Yeah.
about to say, it takes a village.
Oh, you're gonna sing?
I
Oh,
was feeling
shoot! Dang it. Well, I think that we talked a bunch about this. How I think a lot of people, we obsess about the scale, and that being the only measure of success. What would you say are your list as many as you like, non-scale wins throughout this time? I think a lot of people would forget that there's so much more.
I mean, just like clothing fitting differently. I mean, you know, like all of a sudden being able to there's not anything in my closet now, and I've got like the really heavy stuff down to, you know, back where I was, you know, and I'm actually lower than I have been in the last 3 years weight-wise. So I got stuff over here that are still in the closet. So I'm over here. There's not one thing in my closet right now that I can't put on.
So are you taking those clothes to Goodwill?
Yeah, you get
I'm pretty much, that is going to be the plan. I mean, you know, is to get them out of there. Is like they're gone. You know,
a lot of women, they keep those clothes because they like somewhere in the back of their mind, I'm going back.
Yeah. No, and
awesome.
So it's like, you know, so it's that.
Mm-hmm.
It's I mean, I can notice, you know, that my face and stuff, like when I'm shaving them more and stuff, it's, you know, it's thinner. My neck is thinner. You know, so that's another one. You know, the compliments, you know, that people give you, and that's, like I said, that's hard, because I would hope that everybody, as I said earlier, that knows me would think I'm a humble person, and
yeah.
So that's been a little challenging. But I mean, so those things are all the things off, you know, kind of off the top of my head, that, you know, that kind of do make you feel good, and that I have noticed, you know, and it's kind of nice, you know, it's nice to all of a sudden go from a 2X to an extra large, and then all of a sudden the other day I found some old T-shirt that was a large, and I'm like, that's the only thing that's clean. Oh, what the heck? Let's give it a try, and it fit. And I was like, oh, okay, so.
Sure, like, check me out, Blue
Yeah.
Steel. All the selfies.
No, this is good. So, I mean, as we begin to wrap this up, I just want to say again, thank you, because the goal of this show isn't to get clients. It isn't, but it's to give people hope. Mm-hmm. And it's funny, because one of the people that I picked that lesson up from was a guy named Richard Simmons.
Oh, wow.
And I wasn't friends with Richard Simmons. I've met him twice. But I saw him in an airport, and I wanted to like say something to him. I wanted to like go get a picture with him. But it's one of those moments where he was Richard Simmons.
Did he have his shorts on too?
He had shorts on, yes, and I believe they were yellow and they were up real high. And he was Richard Simmons. He's the one you would think of. He was that guy. So it was a little intimidating. He didn't want to, because he was Richard Simmons.
Yeah.
But I watched him go over to this lady who was staring at these pastries. I don't know exactly what he said to her, but I know he went over and he talked to her, and then they ended up walking off together. And they didn't know each other.
Wow.
And it's not that she couldn't have had the pastry. I mean, we know how to eat a pastry and all that. Mm-hmm. But it was the fact that I know that he instills hope. He believes that if you have hope, then you got a chance to turn things around if they're going in a direction that you don't want. And that's what I'm hoping people get out of this share. And then they'll get to see the outcome, which I'm putting more pressure on Chris, part 2, because I really do believe all the things that you want to see happen. Like I would have been surprised if your doctor wasn't open to cutting your metformin. That would have just blown my mind. I would have wrote an email. I would be like, what are you thinking? And fortunately, she did. And I will be blown away if they don't have you off of metformin completely in this upcoming checkup.
That's really awesome.
That's a goal.
So for me, it's hope. I don't know, for you, Barbara, like what would you like your clients to get out of watching this?
I would agree with that, because I think that a lot of times, my clients, or many of them, they struggle with that feeling that they have to be perfect. And one of the things I like to share with them is that, you can't fail at this. The only way you're going to fail is if you just completely give up and completely stop. So it's really not about being perfect. It's about learning how to make this work for you. And we're not perfect, but we can always, always improve. And so I like that. I like the fact that we can instill hope, and that means that there's something to look forward to tomorrow. You just try a little harder.
Oh, that's pretty good there, Aristotle. Barbaristotle, Nostradamus. Any final words you would like to share with anyone who catches this?
I just hope, that people can have the feelings that I have. I mean, it does feel good. I mean, I won't lie. I mean, and it's as you're able to do things that you couldn't do 2 or 3 months ago, it does feel good, and that don't give up and don't get frustrated. And, I would definitely say, for me, we have a lot of similarities. So Robert works for me. I mean, but, maybe Robert doesn't work for somebody else. Have another coach, but you got to have, as I said, that support piece, and it's got to, and they've got to be there, because you are going to hit some pitfall. But if I just hope people can take my story and help them not have to go through what I went through, because I mean, it wasn't fun. I mean, it was not. I mean, like I said, I was scared to death, and I've said this multiple times. I'm not such a man that I can't admit that I was scared, and I don't want anybody to go through something like that. So if I can help somebody that maybe was on that fence post hear this and go, you know what, I'm going to go do this, and I hope that helps with them. I mean, I just don't know how to put in words, because I mean, it just, there is some pressure, but I just, I went into my career because I care about people and I care about kids, and I want to help them be successful. So I hope that maybe my story can keep somebody else from not having to have some body part amputated or anything else, and know that you're not out there by yourself, because, there's pictures of me at 288 pounds, and, so yeah, eventually maybe I'll look like Robert. But, I'm a real person. And so, if you are on that fence post, go for it. And but find a coach. I mean, and I'm not trying to promote anything, but find a coach. I mean, that's my career. So, I mean, I believe in coaches in every phase of your life. And so find that person. And so if I can act as that motivator, if somebody needs to talk, I mean, reach out. I mean, I would love to help, because, I think God put us on this earth to help others and everything. So.
All right, well, you heard it, people. You heard it from the man. You heard it from Chris. And we always end our show by encouraging people to get healthy, be healthy, and
stay healthy.
Until the next one. Boom, we're done.
Oh, that was awesome.
I thought you were going to make me sing or something.
Take a bow.
That didn't hurt? It didn't hurt?
No, you did great.
Yeah.
A little hot up here.
Yeah, I know.
What? I mean, I got to. It's like, what is going on with the heat?
At least I'm like, dang, I'm sweating here.
Yeah, I'm sweating too. But no, thank you very much. That was
You're
great.
welcome.
Really good.
Behind the scenes,
I'm so
people.
glad to finally meet you.
Yes, I'm glad to meet you. I mean,
He's been raving about you. It locked up. It said that I saw a while ago. It said that it needed an update or something.
Oh no, it's still live. We're still on.
Oh really?
Yeah. See.
Oh shoot! Hey.
Say bye.
Bye.
Bye.